Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. Do you want to be less long-winded? Few of my clients come to see me because they want to be less long-winded. But when I see that in a client, I do try to help fix it because long-winded people tend to do poorly in trying to land a job and on the job. I'm a career and personal coach. I usually start by teaching my clients one or more of these behavioral tactics, things you can just do behaviorally, not try to play shrink about it. First is the traffic light rule. During the first 30 seconds of an utterance, your light is green. The second 30 seconds, it's yellow. The chances are increasing that the person would appreciate your stopping, either because they don't want to forget what they want to say or simply because they want a conversation, not a lecture. And at 60 seconds, your light is red. Yeah, very rarely you're going to want to run a red light, but usually not. At 60, you want to stop or ask a question. If the person wants to know more, they can ask. Nearly every client likes the traffic light rule, in theory. In practice, even when I ask them to remind themselves of the traffic light rule before every conversation, in the heat of battle, they too often forget. Occasionally, the reason the traffic light rule fails is that the client doesn't have a good sense of what 30 seconds is or 60 seconds is. And in those cases, we practice with a timer. I tell them to start talking and to stop at 30 or at 60. Very often, they're embarrassed to see how much time has gone by before they stop. If that bit of in-session practice isn't enough, I ask them to practice for homework. The second behavioral tactic I suggest is something called the 40-60 rule. In addition to trimming individual utterances to 30 to 60 seconds, we try what I call macro trimming, that is, the entire conversation. As a rule of thumb, in a two-person conversation, you want to talk generally a little less than half the time. I call that the 40-60 rule. You're aiming to talk roughly 40% of the time, the other person 60, roughly. And the third behavioral tactic I suggest is something called forced distillation. Occasionally, a client is long-winded because he or she doesn't try hard enough to distill. So I might say something like, let's say you had to get the essence of your point across in 30 seconds. How would you do it? Now that tactic is least likely to succeed because usually it's not just a matter of trying harder. Some people simply don't think clearly enough, especially in the moment, to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. When those behavioral tactics don't work well enough, I go deeper. I ask questions to unearth why they talk a lot. For example, it may be about them being nervous about being silent. They fail to realize that the silence is usually better than filling it. Often the other person wants time to think, or about what you said, or what she wants to say in response. If you're always filling the silence, you're denying them that opportunity. Another deeper reason why people are long-winded is they feel they're interesting when they're actually not. I mean, no one tries to be boring, but we all know that some people, especially when they get on a roll, are boring. I ask my clients, do you think that might apply to you, that you're feeling you're interesting when you're not? The solution I end up proposing usually is get out of your head. Think about the other person. How confident are you that your missive will interest them? Like all my tactics, that succeeds enduringly, only sometimes. All my clients like the concept of making sure that they're interesting, to the other person, and they even agree to keep it top of mind. But too often, they'll get on that aforementioned roll and they'll prattle on. Another such slightly deeper tactic is many people are long-winded because they're trying to impress. Some people erroneously think that talking a lot is impressive, and it rarely is. More often, it's seen as egotistical, or at minimum, boring. Again, nearly every one of my clients says it makes sense that they shouldn't be talking long to try to impress, but they aren't sustainably motivated enough to prune their diarrhea of the mouth. And the final tactic that I often share with them is a little bit below the behavioral is they may talk long to gain clarity. Many people gain clarity about something by talking it out, but they fail to realize that they often pay a high price for that clarification. They're being perceived as boring or egotistical, and in turn, being less liked professionally and personally. If you think you might be too long-winded, how about picking one or two of the aforementioned tactics, writing it on your palm so it's there with you everywhere you go, and right before every conversation, read it aloud and promise yourself that you don't want to be known as long-winded. In any event, I do thank you for watching. As usual, I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.